Welcome to the eCommerce Badassery podcast, the place for scrappy female entrepreneurs who want to learn actionable steps and strategies to grow the traffic, sales, and profit in your e-commerce business. I'm your host, Jessica Totillo-Coster, a 20-year retail veteran who spent 3 years as the only employee of a 7-figure online store. That shit was crazy. I know exactly how it feels to do all the things, and I'm sharing everything I learned the hard way so you don't have to. I may have started this business by accident, but supporting badass bosses like you lights me the fuck up, and I am so stoked to see you grow. Are you ready, babe? Let's roll. Welcome back to the eCommerce Badassery podcast. I'm your host, Jessica Totillo-Coster. We are on the last day of the sales funnel series, and today we're talking about the repeat purchase stage. If you haven't listened to episodes 12 through 14, definitely go back and listen to those first, as each one builds on the last, and all of those links are in the show notes, so you can just scroll down to get them. Okay, so let's walk ourselves through the funnel journey, and we're going to go back to the non-toxic cleaning supplies example that I talked about in previous episodes. So step 1 in the funnel is awareness. So at this point, you are creating content to let the customer discover that they have a problem because they may not know it yet. An example of this could be how to create a safe environment at home for your kids. And one of the things that you could mention in there is using non-toxic cleaning supplies. After the awareness stage is the interest stage. And a great way to do this is to offer them a content upgrade to the blog post that you created or video, whatever format you want that to take. And this should be related to that, but you want to be able to insert your product into it. So, top 10 items for a non-toxic home. They read the post, they realized that non-toxic products are important. So you are going to show them 10 non-toxic items that they can start using, one of which is your products. After the interest stage is the purchase stage. So at this point, they're on your email list most likely, or they have been engaging with you a lot on social media. And so you want to give more education about your specific product and your company to help nudge them toward making their first purchase. Now that they've done that, how do you get them to make a second one? The first thing you need to start thinking about is the post-purchase experience. And a great way to approach this is by thinking, what do they need? What do you need to do to ensure that they leave a positive review? This can be everything from how quickly they receive your product to what the unboxing experience is like, and even how you communicate with them after the sale. I'm going to touch on the shipping and packaging really quickly, and then we're going to dive deeper into the communication part. So, of course, many of us have been accustomed to Amazon shipping, and there are some people out there who you'll never be able to please. Those people don't matter. The most important part here is that you do your best to set clear expectations, both on your website and in your confirmation emails. Because the biggest issue is really the customer just not knowing what to expect. So let them know orders typically leave your warehouse within 1 to 2 business days, for example. In addition to the order confirmation email, you'll want them to receive a shipping confirmation and even a delivery confirmation. The first 2 are turned on by default in Shopify. You might have to turn on the delivery confirmation email. And that one, as a consumer, is my favorite, especially if it's a small item that ends up in my mailbox, because I don't necessarily check that every day. Sometimes I have a package in there and I don't even know it. But if I get that email that says it's been delivered, I know to go look for it. And I don't know about you, but I get really excited when I have something to open. I sometimes open my husband's deliveries just so I can open a box. He just lets it sit there, but I need to open it and see what's inside. When it comes to the unboxing experience, you want to make it special. And that doesn't necessarily mean you have to spend a shit ton of money on custom packaging or anything like that, because it is likely going to end up in the garbage. But pretty tissue paper, or the way you wrap it, a branded sticker inside, or even an insert or handwritten note thanking them for their purchase all goes a really long way, and it doesn't have to be expensive. I love the site printdirtcheap.com for inserts and stickers. They do ship from California, so that was really convenient for me. That's where I'm located. You might want to find someone that ships more locally so that you can save some money on that. All right, let's dive into the real meat of this, and that is your post-purchase emails. And that's more than just the order confirmation, those emails I just mentioned. Do you currently have an email that goes out after your customer makes a purchase, aside from those other transactional emails? If you don't, you should. And if you do, keep listening, because I want to make sure you have the right content in there. What you put in this email is 100% going to depend on your product. But remember, your goal is to make sure the customer has a good experience with your product so that they'll leave you a good review. The easiest place to start here is to think about, do you need to educate them on anything? Does your product have a learning curve? If you're not sure, think about the feedback you've gotten in the past. Are there common problems that come up that seem to be from user error, or questions that you see over and over again? That's the type of content you want to include in your post-purchase emails. If you are selling hairstyling products, for example, can you send them a video for how to use it? If you're selling candles, remind them to cut the wick before they burn it. Or are you selling CBD and need to explain how to find the right amount to use? If you're a clothing boutique, for example, it's going to be a little bit harder to be product specific here, but you could still add in a seasonal styling guide that includes the items you sell in your store to give them ideas on how to incorporate, your collection into their existing closet, and maybe you just switch it out each season. And depending upon the number of items you sell, you might need to trigger different flows based on the product itself. If you're using Klaviyo, you can actually use dynamic blocks that show the information relevant to the product they bought in the same email. So, for example, I had a client that had 3 main products a customer can buy. So we have a dynamic block for each one of those items. It will only show if the customer purchased that item in the order that triggered the email. So if they bought 2 of the 3 items, they would see 2 of those blocks. If they only bought 1, then they only see the 1. I'm going to put a link in the show notes for you that shows you how to do this in Klaviyo, because it's way too hard to explain over a podcast, but they have really good directions on how to do that. You'll also want to split this flow between first-time and repeat buyers, because you don't necessarily need to send the same educational content to the same customer when they purchase from you the second time. For first-time buyers, you may also even want to consider a bounce-back offer to encourage them to make their second purchase. Make sure you give them enough time to redeem it, as they're likely going to want to receive your product and try it before they commit to making a second purchase from you. For repeat buyers, you can keep it a bit more simple if you like. Maybe make it just a thank you email. You appreciate so much that they made a second purchase from you. If you do have a rewards program, this is a great place to remind them. You can even encourage them to share about you on social media, or just invite them to your other channels where you create content for them. When it comes to those second-time purchasers, just make sure you're really conveying how much you appreciate that they are supporting your business. You're going to have to brainstorm on this a bit to figure out what's best for you and your company. I recommend starting with a brain dump where you just get out all the things on paper everything your customer needs to have a good experience with your product. In this week's freebie, there's going to be a worksheet to help you do this. So you can go to ecommercebadassery.com/15 to grab your copy. Once you figure out what you need to do or tell them, then start gathering or creating the content you're going to need. And then lastly, you can map out your flow. When it comes to the main education of your product, you likely only need one email. Another thing that you can do with your post-purchase series, though, is add on evergreen content. So if you have blog posts or other videos that aren't time sensitive, share those. This way, you know you're keeping in touch with your customer, even if you're not sending regular campaign emails. One other note about that educational email, too, is I would resend it to anyone who didn't open it the first time. And you can just add that into the flow. So put a few day delay, maybe it's 3 or 4 days, and then add a condition to say, did they open this first email? And if they didn't, resend the same email. The content can be exactly the same. You can just copy the original email you created, just update the subject line. If this is all sounding overwhelming to you and you want a little bit more support here, I do offer one-on-one strategy calls where we can hash this out together. I'm here to support you. Speaking of a rewards program, do you have one? Once you know they've had a good experience with your product and you want them to come back again, rewards programs are a great way to do this. It's a great way to build loyalty. And the reward you give, it doesn't have to be big. It can be as small as 5% back. And if you do the math, that's what most rewards programs will give you. It's best to do this in point form so that they have to spend a good amount of money before they get their first reward. But the overall reward only needs to be the 5%. So for instance, for every $100 they spend, they get a $5 reward to use toward their next purchase. You can also create different tiers to better reward your most loyal customers. The higher the tier, the higher the perks. And whether you want to award them with free products or just want to give them more bonus reward days, like where you do double rewards points, for example, it doesn't have to be overcomplicated. And I love a good double rewards day over just a straight discount, right? Like, let's just reward those people who are consistent shoppers with us and give them a reason to come back. And we don't have to give away the farm. If your product is consumable, a subscribe and save option or a replenishment email series is also a great way to get people to come back. For the subscription piece, check out Recharge. They're my favorite subscription platform for Shopify, and they play pretty nicely with Klaviyo. If you're not ready to add a subscription element to your business, start with a replenishment flow. If you know your customer needs to replace your consumable product every 30 days, you can send a reminder email about 21 days after you fulfill their order to nudge them toward making their next purchase. Klaviyo has a flow specifically for this, which will link them to a cart on Shopify with the items already added. It's pretty nifty. I know I kind of threw a lot of information at you in a short amount of time. It's a lot. If you do nothing else, start with the post-purchase emails. You can get a lot of bang for your buck there and start to build an amazing relationship with your customers. If you want to talk more about this, come on over to the eCommerce Badassery Facebook group. I love continuing the conversation there and seeing how everyone is implementing this into their business. That's all I have for you today. Don't forget to grab your freebie, ecommercebadassery.com/15, and I'll see you on the flip side. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you like what you heard, I'd be so grateful if you'd leave a review on Apple Podcasts, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you're looking to surround yourself with more product entrepreneurs who totally get your life right now, get your booty on over to the eCommerce Badassery Facebook group. Can't wait to see you there. Until next time, e-commerce friends, stay badass.